So, good morning once again. If you're in this very room or watching from afar, we welcome you. Or if you're watching later, we welcome you. My topic for today is as a little child working toward the wow. So, if you're familiar with religious science or New Thought, or if you're with us for the first time and have no idea why you're here, we really welcome you. And if you're familiar with the teaching, we welcome you as well. But I think you would agree with me that one of the foundations of our teaching is that this is not all there is. This right here in this moment that we see, that we feel, that we know, this is not all there is. There is always more. There's more possibility. There's more abundance. There's more healing. There's more of whatever it is that makes our hearts sing and our tails wag. And the way that we access the more is through our affirmative prayer or our spiritual mind treatment. So my question for us is, what do we really believe and feel and know? Not what Ernest Holmes tells us in the Science of Mind textbook, not what we read in a book, not what I'm going to tell you, not what our ministers or practitioners tell you, but what do we really believe in our heart of hearts about what happens after we say, and so it is, or amen? What do we really believe? So I'm so glad you're with me this morning, keeping in mind always that as I am speaking to you, I am always speaking to myself. So I appreciate you being in the room when I'm talking to myself. Thank you. So we remember the words of Jesus from Matthew 18, verses 3 and 4. And Jesus said, "Truly I say to you, unless you change and become like little children, you shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whoever therefore will humble himself like this little child shall be great in the kingdom of heaven." And I would suggest for us that the kingdom of heaven is not just the sweet by and by. It's not where we go when we're done here. It is our moment by moment experience. And just as heaven is, so I bet you would agree with me, hell is as well, because we have those experiences as well. So what do we do? How do we do this so that we're choosing on a moment by moment experience more heaven and less hell? Gee, that's a good title for another Sunday talk. I got to work on that. So note that Jesus said, become childlike, not childish. Childlike, so that the qualities of a child, of trusting, of following, of believing. And that's how we experience this heaven. So a small child loves themselves. So my topic is a little different from what was suggested, but because there is only one mind, the music this morning is absolutely perfect for what I'm talking about. So thank you guys for that. A small child loves themselves. What's not to love? Yeah, I spilled the milk. Yeah, I stepped on the dog. Yeah, I didn't eat all my broccoli. It's okay, because that has nothing to do with my worth and value. So a small child recognizes that they are absolutely the beloved, that nothing has changed, nothing will change, nothing could change to change that they are absolutely the beloved, and by the way, the world revolves around them. And we'll talk more about that. The child is dependent on parents, grandparents, other dear ones, but adults in their lives, most likely to bring them their good. And they're not concerned with the how, only the what. I want that. I don't care how you're going to get it. I just know that I want it. And oh, by the way, can I have it this afternoon, please? or sooner, right this red hot second, right? If you have had children or grandchildren or other dear ones of a small size, that's how it is. I want it, and I want it now, not after the first of the month, not at your convenience. I just want it, and I want it now, and you get to figure out how it's going to happen. It's none of my business how you get it. I just know that I want it. So you might remember Charles Fillmore is the co-founder. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore founded Unity, and Charles wrote, "The inexhaustible resource of spirit is equal to every demand. There is no reality in lack. Abundance is here and now manifest." So think about that word demand. Sounds like going out in the parking lot and shaking your fist at the sky. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the absolute knowing, the absolute accepting. There is no question when I do this affirmative prayer, when I keep up my part of the bargain, something must happen. That is the demand. That's the quiet knowing that whatever this is going to happen for me. I am demanding this good, or I'm releasing this that no longer serves me. Then what? So we say, and so it is. We say, Amen. And then what? Do we get, yes, but? Nice. Yeah, that's a really, and our ego, small letters, Wayne Dyer said, and probably other people too said, that ego stands for edging God out. So, yeah, but in this economy, yeah, but at your age, yeah, but how are you going to do that? And so we get those, so often we get those thoughts, those ideas, those, but if it doesn't work, we can change to a plan B. I would invite us to consider that we're throwing water on the fire that is this power that we're tapping into when we create a plan B. And I'll talk more about that. Do we trust Spirit to do what we say we want? Or do we get into this doubt and this, I'm not sure. So believe it or not, Friday, June 20th, so a week from this Friday, is the first day of summer. Now, in some places, you know, there's a great deal of fanfare, and the angels' trumpet sounds and the heavens open when the seasons change. I lived in Boston for 2 years, and boy, when it was spring, we're like, thank you, God. In San Diego, not so much. You know, we do May gray and June gloom and then July fry. So, you know, summer arrives, and we just notice that there's less low clouds and fog and more heat in East County, and that's just the way it goes. But during spring, if we planted something in our gardens, do we then go out the next day and dig it up to see if it's sprouted yet? Or do we allow nature to do we allow Spirit to do what Spirit does? And know that our word, Ernest Holmes said, my word never returns to me void. We know that when we stated our intention, when we said, and so it is, something's going to happen. As a little child, I don't need to be concerned with how. I just know that this is going to manifest for me, whatever this is. I think you'll agree with me that these are strange and wonderful days. And this topic really resonated for me because I was involved in a real estate transaction. And right back a couple of months ago, when the stock market was doing what the stock market did, and many people's 401ks looked more like 1Ks, and started to have the, oh God, what do I do if? I stated my word. I said my word. I said, and so it is. When we do that, how important it is for us in that demand to stay in the conviction that when we speak our word, something happens. And of course, it all worked out exactly as it could have and should have. But yet another reminder that you said that's what you wanted. Of course it's going to happen for me. So my question for us is how is our relationship, and what is our relationship with this higher power, with God, Spirit, the universe, the infinite, the divine? Next Sunday is Father's Day. And if your relationship with your earthly father was not all that it could have been, Grandpa, yes, great grandpa, awesome. If your relationship with your earthly father wasn't all that it could have been, because sometimes we project human qualities onto our higher power. So there's always the opportunity to say, so if we call her Heavenly Father, how do we feel about that? So just, again, so important for us to recognize what we believe about Spirit and Spirit's willingness and ability to respond when we do our work. If you come from traditional Christianity, that song that Sylvia sang earlier might have just been made just the slightest bit uncomfortable, because traditional Christianity, and I grew up in the Missouri Synod Lutheran Church, and we were just up to our necks in original sin and guilt and shame and all the rest of that. And now, some number of years later, how important it is for us to check back in and see, do we have any residue from that old stuff? Using a purely spiritual term, stuff. Because if we do, we might have the thought that, well, this is all well and good, and this is really what I want, but do I deserve it? Of course you do. There is nothing. There is nothing that has happened, could happen, ever will happen to keep you from that deservedness, because Jesus said it's done unto as you believe. Not as long as you've eaten your vegetables, not as long as anything else. Period. So what do we believe about that? Not an issue for little children. I don't care. Yeah, again, like I talked about earlier. Yeah, I spilled my milk. Yeah, I stepped on the dog. Yeah, whatever. But I want this. As a little child. So one of the great, Ernest Holmes wrote many books, and one of the greatest to me is one of the first ones that I read. I'm not sure if it's still the title, but the original title was This Thing Called You. And he talks in English. Isn't it great? Because we can go down, and with all love and respect to the great New Thought writers of the centuries, but sometimes your eyes start to roll back in your head. They said, what? I need English. I need something that I can understand. And so in This Thing Called You, and if you don't have it in your library, I invite you to consider getting it. Ernest Holmes writes about this experience of spirit. And he talks about the story of the feeding of the 5,000. And remember, Jesus was there. 5,000 people were there. A little boy came up to him with a couple of loaves of bread and a couple of fishes, I think. Is fish plural? I got to look that up. Fish is plural. Okay, so I see it's a couple of sea creatures and some bread. Fishies, yes, all right. And the disciples are like, well, that's nice. Maybe we could each have a bite apiece, but what are you going to do for the rest of these people? And there was more than enough to go around with leftovers. And I love this quote from the book. Nothing has happened to reality since that little boy brought the loaves and fishes to Jesus. God has not changed. Nature has not changed. Law has not changed. Truth has not changed. Perhaps that little boy is still standing there with outstretched hands and glistening eyes. Perhaps you are that boy. The man is there also, the man of divine wisdom, the God-intended man. Let the little boy hand the few loaves and fishes to this divine man within you, while the intellect gives thanks and the spirit performs its miracle of love. So again, my question is, how are we? Are we okay? Are we breathing? Are we sleeping? Are we okay? Or are we hanging on for dear life until things start to calm down? Can we and do we recognize that it's all out there, and within us in this moment, we are loved, we are provided for, we are nurtured, and all is well? A good question for us. How often do we create our goals and plans? And so this is almost halfway through the year. What are we going to do? What are we doing the rest of the year? How often do we create our plans and our goals and our dreams based on what we can figure out how to do versus I just really want to, and you get to fill in the blank. And then allow Spirit to do what Spirit does and create whatever that experience is for us. Or I'm just sick to death of this and I would like to release it. Sometimes we don't know how, but we can ask and be guided in how to do whatever it is to release that no longer serves us. When we become as a little child, we don't get involved in what we know. Have you ever done that? That, I just really want to, whatever it is. Don't know how it's going to happen. Don't know where it's going to come from. Don't know how to do it. But I just know that somehow, some way, because this really makes my tail wag, there is a way for this to happen, and then allow Spirit to do what Spirit does. And then look back and say, oh, crap, I'm giving away the rest of the talk. Then look back and say, wow. Stay tuned for the wow. Stay tuned for the wow. Again, as a little child, this is what I want. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know what I need to do to make it happen. But then I state my intention. I say, and so it is. And then I listen for the guidance that I get. And as it's maybe not manifesting, as it's not happening for us as quickly as we would have wanted, ask, what do I believe about this? And quoting Edwin Gaines, what must I change about myself in order to receive this? Because we're never talking God into doing anything. We're just allowing whatever it is to happen for us. So we look at this and we decide, and this is really what I want, and so it is. And we might have a list, but do we assign an order of difficulty to those things on our list? And I love this quote. Whoops, not there yet. This quote from Course in Miracles, which I love and adore. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. So what that means is it's Tuesday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I can get a parking place at Costco without any problem. But Saturday morning at 11:30 is a little more difficult. And 2 days before a major holiday at lunchtime, or do we recognize there's no order of difficulty in miracles. And whatever that is, if we stay grounded in that truth and that knowing and not get involved in the yes buts, then whatever that is will manifest for us. So during this experience I had with this real estate transaction, I was lovingly and gently reminded. Now, I hear voices, and so do you. And that sounds funny, but I would suggest that the voice that we hear that is loving and nurturing and suggesting a new way of looking at things is spirit. The voice that starts with, and if you've heard me speak before, you know that this is for me. This is starting my judgment statement. For the love of God. For the love of God, Jerry, why are you trying to do this? That's not spirit talking to me. That's ego talking to me. But when we listen to that still small voice and then act on the guidance that we get, that's how we wind up where we want to do, where we want to go. So with this experience, there was some ego, and well, maybe you should wait, and well, I don't know how you're going to do this. But as ministers and practitioners, and I would suggest that if you've been in this teaching for more than a month, you're a practitioner, whether you have a certificate on your wall or not, we are lovingly invited and guided to buy what we're selling. I, as a minister, am invited, okay, to buy what I'm selling. It either works because it either works or it doesn't. It either works for parking places. Again, there's that level of difficulty. I can do parking places all day long, but trying to sell a property in a down economy, or trying to find a new job at a certain age, or trying to find a new relationship, or trying to heal something, we assign that level of difficulty. But it either works or it doesn't. And that's why we call it religious science, because science works for everybody the same way all the time. Those are my words, and I don't know if Ernie said that or not, and so I'll take credit for that. It works for us in parking places. It works for us in money. It works for us in health. It works for us in relationships. For everybody the same way all the time. So how do we do this? We call it affirmative prayer. We call it spiritual mind treatment. So how do we do this? As you may know, if you've been through classes, you know that there are the steps, the 7 steps. And we sit down and be comfortable in our chair or in our meditative state, and we do our spiritual mind treatment. And very often, that's perfect and that works. But we don't always have the opportunity to do those 7 steps, because sometimes there's something happening in our lives that we say something that is not pulpit worthy, but you can fill in the blank, but also kind of an abbreviated version. And so I love this book, Help, Thanks, Wow. The 3 Essential Prayers by Anne Lamott. Absolutely wonderful. And so I'd like to use short quotes from each of those to kind of illustrate. Because again, yes, it's spiritual mind treatment. Yes, it's the 7 steps. Yes, that's what we do. But we're not always able in a situation to do that. So help, thanks, wow. Starting with help. Praying help means that we ask something, God, Spirit, the universe, the infinite, the divine, whatever we call it, to give us the courage to stop in our tracks, right where we are, and turn our fixation away from our problems. We stop the toxic peering and instead turn our eyes to something else, to our feet on the sidewalk, to the middle distance, to the hills, someplace else, anything else. In surrender, I love this, In surrender, we have won. Consider, because whenever I hear the word surrender, I think of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, and and the witch is up there and she's writing "Surrender, Dorothy." That's not what we mean. We're not giving up. We're giving in. I don't know what to do about this. I don't know how to heal this. I don't know, and you get to fill in the blank, but I know that there is a way, and I know that I will be divinely guided. So that's that surrender. So help. I don't know what to do in this situation. And then thanks. Without revelation and reframing, life can seem like an endless dessert. Jeez, Jerry. An endless desert of danger with scratchy sand in your shoes. And yet, if we remember or are reminded to pay attention, we find so many sources of hidden water, so many bits and chips and washes of color in a weed or the gravel or a sunrise. There are so many ways to sweep the sand off our feet. So we say, "Oh my God, thank you." I love that. And I love the examples and the illustration of that. Because when it happens, and it does, and it will, how important it is for us to recognize, thank you. And oh, by the way, if it works the same way all the time, if I got that parking place at 2:00 on Tuesday afternoon, then maybe I could accept that. And maybe I could accept that. And maybe I could accept that. So help, thanks, and my favorite, wow. When all is said and done, spring is the main reason for wow. I was in a slight detour here. I was in Richmond, Virginia a few weeks ago as the temperature was warming up, as the absolutely amazing flowers were blooming. And, in San Diego, we get a little bit of bloom here and there, but not like necessarily on the East Coast. And it was so beautiful and so amazing. And people are doing cartwheels because the weather's finally warming up and we can be outside and I can go find my car somewhere because it's covered with pollen from the trees. They have that, but still just the most amazing experience of spring. Buds opening and releasing, mud and cutting winds, bright green grass and blue skies, nests full of baby birds. In spring, we expand and stretch in all directions. It's green exuberance and giddiness, bright clown colors and Easter colors, the rebirth of the tender growing soul. So this is the manifestation of that, whatever it is. It's the new job. It's the new relationship. It's the unexpected income. It's the releasing of that 5,000-pound weight of that we needed to forgive that we just haven't been able to. It's the whatever it is. It's the growth and the welcoming of spring, no matter what time of year it is. Wow or wonder takes our breath away and makes room for new breath. Maybe that's why they call it breathtaking. Yep, just had it there and the train of thought just derailed. Well, it'll come back to me. Helen Keller, there we go, I think she said, the way to live, and paraphrase, is either that everything is a miracle or nothing is. And whatever we look for, we see more of, as you know. What we focus on expands. So if we say, wow, that was pretty cool, and we'll see more of those. If we say, we say more of those. It's always up to us. So Jesus is quoted as saying, Ernest Holmes said, If it is the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, it should be our good pleasure to receive it. And again, I would suggest that it's not just the sweet by and by. It's not the streets paved with gold and you get to decide what you believe about the hereafter, but it's heaven this afternoon. It's heaven tomorrow morning. It's heaven when we go home and turn on the television or open the mail or whatever the case might be. It's the moment by moment experience that we have throughout our lives. To ask, seek, and knock. We don't talk about the Bible very much, but I love to do it, and nobody runs for the door, which I appreciate, because whether we want to admit it or not, the foundation of our teaching comes from the words of Jesus. He said to ask, seek, and knock, and keep asking, and keep seeking, and keep knocking. What do I need to change about my belief about this so that it will happen for me? Again, not talking God into doing anything, but talking ourselves into receiving, accepting whatever it is. So again, quoting Charles Fillmore, the inexhaustible supply of spirit is equal to every demand. But we have to demand. Somebody said God can only do for us what God can do through us. So if you're okay with that just being okay, that's okay. But if you want it much bigger, much better, much more wonderful, that's up to us as well. We have to demand and stay in the expectation, stay in the possibility, and again, as little children, not get involved in the how, just the what. Otherwise, the universe is just hanging out, getting bored. I'm here for you, but I can't do it if you don't ask me. So it's up to us to decide what will make our tails wag and our hearts sing and do our work to allow that to happen. Because, two of my favorite quotes, and the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. So what are we holding on to that we're ready to blossom and bloom and release and accept? It's always, always up to us. And then, just a gentle reminder, I love Facebook. I get the coolest stuff on Facebook. And if it's not what I wanted, God made scrolling. So, you just keep scrolling and look for the important quotes, because we are allowed to imagine the best case scenario. Yeah, it would be okay, and I could get that, but I could get that, or I could get that, and allow the generosity and the love and the passion of the universe to express in our lives in all possible ways. And then we say, wow. So with that in mind, join me in the light for just a minute. So in the peace and the quiet of this moment, we allow ourselves to be reminded of our oneness with the God presence, with one another, and with all that is. In this oneness, we recognize that we truly see with the eyes of God, that we speak with the mouth of God, that we hear with the ears of God. We feel with the heart of God. And so we give great thanks for this day, for the opportunity to be together, to be reminded of the truth of our being. And moving forward, we say yes. We say yes, thank you, and more, please. We approach life as a little child, childlike, not childish, and honor what it is that would make our hearts sing. And allow Spirit to bring us this most amazing life, because that's what we're here for. For this day, for this beloved spiritual community, for our time together, we give great thanks. And together we say, and so it is.